Okay, I think we have recording 2 going well there. Cadet Ryan, you're clear to take over the flight here.
Yes, sir. Flight, Hudson, Hut! Element 1, report. All present and accounted for, sir. Element 2, report.
All present and accounted for, sir.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seats.
Okay, guys, welcome to week 6 of military studies. We talked about everybody being able to get online, and please check the grades, because what you guys do online, I'm still having problems transferring it to the different grade books to Power School. Matter of fact, why don't we let that be your homework tonight for all this class? You check everything you've done and go to Power School. You need to walk up to the front office and make sure you can get on Power School, okay? Petrovich? So that would help out a lot, all right? And then make sure that what you've accomplished online is the same thing on Power School, because this is week 6 and you're going to have your grades pretty soon. Okay, week 6, we're going to briefly go over the entire lesson 2, which we've hit before with the Vietnam War and Lieutenant Colonel Jonas. But we're going to go ahead and finish that up. End of the Cold War. When I actually turn on the week 6 on the Moodle tomorrow, you'll see it's straight out of lesson 2, and it covers all these vocabulary and objectives for that. This afternoon, for my hybrid course, you're actually taking the LE test that my in-school students took Friday. Okay, so the hybrid course is taking everything online here at CPS this afternoon. A week from today, Leadership Lab 7, week 7, we're actually having a field day for ROTC. So everyone in ROTC is invited. We should have 150, 170 students there. My SAL flight is running it. They'll be cooking, getting food for everybody tomorrow. Go talk to your parents tonight and your transportation issues, and see if you guys will be attending. Tomorrow I'll need a head count so we can get the correct amount of food. We'll be doing PE uniforms. We'll be earning streamers and awards for your flight. Counts towards honor flight, as well as meeting students outside of your class. I mean, some of you guys not met the other 150 students in our organization. Okay, so everybody please open up your books to lesson 2. What page is that, guys?
229, sir.
229, okay? $229. Let's see. What's the easiest way to do this? I guess what I'll do is sort of go through this a little quicker, and then when we hit the points where we actually have talked about this, let's see. Actually, what about tomorrow? Tomorrow is 9/11. Uniform of the day is standard on Tuesday instead of Thursday. We actually have our 9/11 ceremony out by the flagpole. How many of my students here, first of all, how many of my students do you remember 9/11? How many people remember 9/11? Okay, so it was what, 11 years ago? So you guys were 5, 6?
That's...
But you do remember it. 3, 2?
7.
Okay, how many people here know why 9/11 happened? Okay, but not that many. How many people here know how many people died in the 2 buildings? 1,000, 2,000, 30,000, 40,000?
Isn't it close to 2,000, sir?
Okay. How many people here know how many countries had people die in 9/11? How many people here know how many planes? How many attacks? How many attacks?
2, sir.
Okay. Wrong.
3.
Wrong. All right, so anyway, now you're convincing me I think we're going to have a 9/11 day tomorrow, okay? I was involved in 9/11. I was stationed at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida, and on 9/11, I was in the middle of an exercise which was supposed to defend us from attacks from outside of America. And guess what? On 9/11, we got attacked from forces inside of America. So it was a mess. And because of that one day, it basically kept me from retiring for 1 year. So that one day extended my retirement 1 year. So I think we'll go through this lesson 2 today, but we'll knock it off. We'll go through a 9/11 talk tomorrow, and then on Thursday we'll tidy this up. In the back, yes, sir.
Did 9/11 have anything to do with the fact that 911 is our emergency number?
No.
It happened on September 11, 2000.
Yeah, but that was a coincidence. Okay? And actually, at the beginning of 9/11, when they were trying to figure out what to call it, a lot of people called it 911. Until eventually the media and everybody started calling it 9/11. But no, that was just absolutely coincidental. But anyway, we will talk about that tomorrow. I have quite a bit of knowledge, and I think that it's good for you guys to know about this. We'll take a break from our normal lessons. Okay, so today, let's go over our military war and Vietnam War and other military operations. Okay, from the top here, this is one of my things. Who is this guy right here? Who is Lance Saijan? Who is he? Yes, sir. Cadet Petrovich.
He's a model POW, sir.
A what?
Model prisoner of war.
Prisoner of war. You don't call it POW, you call it POW. Okay? So it's a POW, it's a prisoner of war. And tell me some things on page 228 about him. Cadet Overton, tell me some facts about Captain Lance Saijan.
He was Air Force pilot in the Vietnam War.
Okay, he's Air Force, he's Vietnam War. What else? Cadet Kramer.
He was stranded in enemy territory for more than 6 weeks.
He was shot down.
Yes.
Okay? And he escaped and evaded for 6 weeks, which is pretty amazing. Imagine, I went camping with the Boy Scouts Friday, and I was bumming out because I thought it would rain. And it didn't. And I made it through that one night. But can you imagine 6 weeks of being hunted like an animal and making it? What else? What else happened to him? Yes, sir. Cadet Bean.
He also had a broken leg, a hurt hand, and a fractured skull.
Okay, so he's hurt from the ejections. The ejections, when you're ejected from a plane, you live. But a lot of times you're injured severely. I mean, matter of fact, I only have about 2 friends. One was Colonel Jonas, who had ejected from a plane and continued to fly. Usually guys, when they eject, they don't fly much anymore because their spinal cord is compressed. They got neck problems. You live, but you're kind of messed up. Yes, sir.
He was captured and then tortured.
Captured and tortured. So he's a POW. Okay, what else? Okay, Carol.
He died on the 21st of January 1968.
Why did he die?
Because of a mistreatment from the POW camp.
Okay, so he's in POW. Yep.
And from being transported from place to place, finally to Hanoi, the North Vietnamese capital.
Hanoi. What's that famous for in Vietnam as far as POWs? Anybody know about that? Hanoi Hilton. We have a senator from Arizona that was stationed there. That was stationed there. That actually got to spend some glorious moments there. Yeah, Senator McCain was actually there with another Air Force hero, George Day.
Should Dick Jonas talk about that, sir? How he knew?
He knew people that went there, yes. Dick Jonas was not a POW.
No, I'm saying he knew the guy who was in the cell with John McCain.
Yep. They were all contemporaries, exactly. Was this captain's efforts recognized?
Yes, sir.
What did he win?
The Medal of Honor.
What is the Medal of Honor?
The highest honor any person in any branch of service can be given, sir. That's
in America, that's the highest honor
and
you can receive.
It's called the Congressional Medal of Honor because it's awarded by the President on behalf of the Congress.
Exactly. Do you want to win that one, Cadet Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. No, the answer is no, sir. I don't want to win the Medal of Honor.
You get the Medal of Honor.
Just kidding. In general, you're dead when you win the Medal of Honor. Although recently, in the last 20 years, I think we've had, 3 that have been alive from Afghanistan. But I'm just joking. Yeah, I appreciate your bravery, and I'd love for you to win the Medal of Honor. It'd be great. But it's not something you go out and aspire to do, because generally you die in the process. I'll tell you another interesting thing. If Cadet Johnson wins the Medal of Honor, hoorah, we'll be very proud of him. I hope you live through it. But bottom line is, if you do that, you actually have a special ability to have any of your children to go to any of the military academies in America for free without going through the regular application process. Is that crazy?
That's insane.
So if your dad is a Medal of Honor and he has 3 kids like I do, any of the kids get automatic appointments to the military academies. So it's quite an honor in America. Yes, sir.
If there's a couple that was married, but they didn't have any children, and then the husband dies, and then she remarries and has a
No. That's never happened.
It's his
Okay, so I need you to know, have you guys seen anything about this captain before?
I've heard C on Hall, sir. I've heard it before, but other than that, I'm sure.
Okay, you have not. Okay, that's not a very good answer, because unless in week 5, this is week 6, okay, we actually had an assignment to watch a video on this guy. Okay, has anybody watched a video online with this guy?
Sure.
You have. Cadet Haslam, give me air 5. Okay, so you need to do that, and there is an assignment on this for the next ones. Okay, Cold War conflicts. Here we go. We talked about the Cold War. We talked about the Berlin airlift and the Korean War. We actually coming up to the Cuban Missile. How many people here remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Oh, just kidding. I do. I was about 3 years old, okay, because I was asking you guys about who remembers 9/11. I actually sort of remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was a scary time. We thought that America was going to be nuked. When I told you we practiced getting underneath the chairs and tables, we were doing it for real, because I lived in South Carolina, which was well within the nuclear capability of the nukes being put up in Cuba. And it even says, this event, the Cuban Missile Crisis, is the closest the Soviet Union and America ever got to nuclear war. It was a scary thing. Okay, this is the background on Cuba. Who was in charge of Cuba? Who's in charge of Cuba? Yes, sir.
Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro, yes. Why don't you look on page 230? It even shows you the distances of where those nukes can go.
ICBM.
Fidel Castro, where was he educated?
Wasn't he educated in America?
America! Everybody comes to America and learns about America and the great education, goes back, takes over their country, and then hates America. And so that's what happened. And so basically what happened in Cuba was the inroads into the Western Hemisphere for Russia. And they wanted to bring their Russian influence. They poured a ton of money into Cuba. And actually, I don't have a map of Cuba, except, let's see if I can make this work. This is except what's there in your, let's see if I can make this work. Except what's in your, did that work? Come on, baby. Yes, ding, 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 ding. I love it when technology works. Okay, Cuba is a large island. It's 90 miles south of Key West, Florida, but this island can stretch from Miami up to Washington, D.C. It is a huge island. It's big. It's not a little palm tree, Caribbean island. It's a large island. So you think about how huge this island is, go from Miami up to Washington, D.C., and I lived about right there. That's where Colonel Peoples lived. And so we were absolutely in the heart of being nuked when I was a kid. And I remember my parents turning on the TV at night, saying that there's 24 hours to a decision to attack Cuba. And we actually had friends in the reserves and the guards who deployed and moved in fighters from the southeast down into Miami getting ready to attack Cuba. It's just that we never did. Okay, the Soviets wanted to intimidate the United States in their own backyard. And we sent spy planes. Why didn't we send our super secret keyhole CIA satellites over Cuba? Did we do that? Why? Yeah, Cuba had their own satellites, were spying on us. Where's my button? Thank you very much for playing. Wrong. No, about 20 years too short. There was no such thing as satellites this time, okay? We only had this plane, the U-2, and this was about as high-tech as you could get. It was a glider, and it could take up and fly up to about 80,000 feet. Just talk about, no, 80,000. High altitude, single engine, one guy, and he'd fly over Cuba, and he would take very, very cool, fantastic, neat pictures like these right here. Come on, baby. And this was the most high-tech pictures you could have at the time. And I remember this as a kid. I remember my parents wondering if we were going to be nuked this week. It was in October. It was this time of the year. But you can see these pictures. These are actually pictures from planes taken at high altitude. And you could see missile erectors, missile tents, launch position. What were the Russians saying at the time? The Russians say, yeah, we're building nukes over there so we can intimidate you. What were they saying? They were lying. They were going, no, we're not doing anything in Cuba. We're not going to do anything in Cuba. We don't even know where Cuba is. Just kidding. But they were denying everything. And when these pictures came back that, yes, they are already there, and these nukes are going to be operational in about 4 days, he gets kind of nervous. So what was the end of the Cuban Missile Crisis? What was the crisis? What was the outcome there? Bottom of page 231. What did we do?
Didn't JFK intervene?
Yes, John F. Kennedy had his about finest hour, and he had a gambling match with the Soviets and had a naval blockade of the Cuban island because the final bits of the nuclear missiles were coming on a ship, and we blockaded Cuba, and that's an act of war, you realize, blockading the international seaways. And basically, we told the Soviets, no, you cannot bring in those final bits of the nuclear missiles. And when he did that, so 24th October, 62, when they did it, 500 miles away from the United States, the Soviet ships turned away. And basically, Soviet Premier Khrushchev, he was Kennedy's contemporary, ordered the missile sites dismantled. The crisis had passed, but it started the arms race. So, in retrospect, looking back at this, a lot of stuff has been declassified since 1962. One of the reasons the Soviets backed off, does anybody know this? Why did they back off? We actually had nukes in Turkey, and they were pointed at Russia. Okay? And so, secretly, Kennedy says, well, you know what? We'll dismantle those nukes in Turkey if you promise not to build the ones in Cuba. And that's what they did, secretly. So it was sort of a secret agreement, but in the public, we never told them about those agreements until now. This is 50 years later. They ended up being a standoff where it was the closest call to nuclear war, but it did not happen. Okay, Vietnam. I don't feel like we really need to go through Vietnam, because we have been through this before. We have trained the Vietnam Air Force, and we used air power in Vietnam quite well. The theater was small, the targets were smaller. Colonel Jonas talked about rolling thunder, where we actually had tactical strikes on all these different parts, trying to wear down the North Vietnamese. And also, Colonel Jonas talked about the Tet Offensive. What does Tet mean in Vietnam? What was Tet? Tet. Was it a tetanus shot?
New Year's holiday, sir.
Yes, it was a holiday. It was like New Year's holiday. And so supposedly, just like Colonel Jonas said, everybody's supposed to take off and have a good day, and they lied and had a huge offensive, and it really did catch us off guard. It was a good strategic job by North Vietnam. And then towards the end of the war, guess what? We had Operation Linebacker I, trying to wipe them out. President Nixon do whatever was necessary to drive the Vietnamese out of the South for good. And then we had Operation Linebacker II. We didn't nuke these people. We simply bombed them immensely. And basically it forced them into a peace treaty. What is President Nixon very well known for? The Nixon tapes, the Watergate scandal where he lied to the country. But people forget that he got us out of Vietnam. He saved people from dying. Okay? My mother, was Nixon Republican or a Democrat there, Cadet Kramer?
Republican, sir?
Ding, ding, ding. Good job. Good guess. 50%, right? Okay, so Cadet Kramer, Mr. Nixon was Republican, but my family from South Carolina was Democrat forever, for 150 years. And so guess what? My brother was sitting in Vietnam. And all of a sudden there was a race for presidency, just like there's a race for presidency right now. And this one guy on the Republican guy named Richard Nixon, he goes, I will get your son out of Vietnam. I will stop Vietnam. Guess who my mother voted for? Richard Nixon.
Democrats.
So many, many people at that time thought that Nixon was a pretty good guy. He stopped Vietnam. How many people died in Vietnam? 10,000? 500,000? 100,000? Give me a guess. How many people just like you guys, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys died?
16,000, sir?
52. Okay? 52,000. About the same amount that dies in 1 year of car wrecks in America. But it was a horrible thing, and there's not many churches in America, not many families that were not affected by Vietnam. Not everybody. My brother lived. He came back. But his best friend died right there in front of him. And his name's on the Vietnam War Memorial. So Richard Nixon did lie to America and did have a big problem at the end of his career. But at the beginning of it, he came in pretty high. Okay? One of the big outcomes of Vietnam was having the helicopter, the ability of a helicopter to transport stuff. The remote outpost was fantastic for the Army. And also brand new Air Force planes were invented and did real well, the bombers and the fighters. And just like Colonel Jonas talked about, the Phantoms, F-4s did real well. Lessons learned. How do I say this more clearly? This will be on your test. Okay? This will be on your test. This is one of your objectives. You need to understand that the North Vietnamese used the time to repair the supply routes when we stopped bombing. Politics. The politicians said, you will start bombing on this date and you will stop bombing on this date. It wasn't the generals or the people who were in charge of the grounds that determined it. Okay? The bombing raids were intermittent and people used it. We had a significant role of the Air Force in Vietnam. We did not do any nukes. Remember, the Air Force was split away from the Army to do nukes. We didn't do nukes in Vietnam. We dropped conventional bombs. And with NATO, by the way, what's NATO? Cadet Overton, what's NATO? We talked about that when we talked about Europe after World War II. What does NATO stand for, guys? Cadet McGee.
It's national.
I got in trouble. What does NATO stand for? Someone help me. Cadet Haslam.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So where is it found? Is it found in Hawaii?
Yes.
Yes, because it's named North Atlantic. It's in Hawaii. Thank you very much for playing. Okay, no, it's in Europe. And with the onslaught of post-Vietnam and post-Korea, you can see that America very much worried about Russia, Army, and nukes. And so we formed the NATO in order to protect ourselves against a Russian ground attack of Europe and the Soviet nuclear arms in Europe. We're going to go over a few of these significant military operations during the Cold War, and actually we only have about 4 minutes. So I'm going to stop right here on this one in order to in order to start on Thursday. We'll go ahead and do this. Tomorrow we'll go ahead and do a 9/11 mission. I won't call it mission. Tell you what, you guys think about 9/11. Think about what you do not know, because this is a significant event. It's just like Pearl Harbor, and we'll have a Pearl Harbor Day. That's a good point. If I have a Pearl Harbor Day in this military studies class, I can have a 9/11 Day for the same reason. But we'll go over this tomorrow. And Cadet McGee, why don't we go ahead and dismiss the class, and we'll get going. Collect the books, please, and put them up after he dismisses them.
Fight! Hudson! Hut!